You're watching the #1 podcast in the YouTube wrestling community, and I'm your host, Jean-Paul Leek.
And I'm your host, Ryan, Legend Killer Whitman.
And we are Rope Break. And family, we just want to say that Juan, he's here in spirit with us, but, he had some other contractual obligations. He works for 2 corporations, so we let him have off tonight. But no, we hope we're all doing good, right here after SmackDown. And Ryan, what did you think of the show? Has it been getting better with Edge and Daniel Bryan, or is it still kind of like, still kind of crappy?
I thought it's been good the past couple of weeks. Tonight, I would say, was a bit of a misstep, but not a horrible show by any means, just, I'd say, lost their footing a little bit tonight.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, we saw, the one thing that they did and they have been doing that I like is they're advertising pretty much all the matches, a week ahead of time. So, hey, we got Lacey Evans and Naomi. We got the Intercontinental Championship match. We have, the main event of Nikki Cross and Bayley. So they kind of get you hyped up for the show. But speaking of getting hyped up, guys, if you haven't already, watch Monday Night Raw, AEW, and NXT review right here on the channel. But speaking of those, let's get into SmackDown. So right when the show started, it was, everybody was kind of cutting a promo. Biggie, I'm on a singles run, Miz and Morrison. Everybody was just hyping up, their pushes for the near future. But the show actually started with the Firefly Funhouse, and Bray said that he never wanted to hurt Braun Strowman. He only wanted to help him. He's like, but now the Fiend, he's awake, and he wants something that Braun has, and that he says that he's pretty much, no one is safe until he gets it. And then he's just like, bye, waving. So pretty much it's just the same old shit. Like, hey, the Fiend wants his title back. Ryan, what do you think of this? Like, is this good, or are you just waiting for the Fiend to get the title so we can move on?
Yeah, I'm just kind of waiting for the Fiend to get the title. It's just it's a logical step in the direction of the feud that they're doing right now with Braun and the Fiend. Just kind of now waiting around for Braun to come back on the TV, because I think Bray Wyatt can only carry this feud so far by himself. So just really waiting for Braun to get back.
Oh, yeah, and they're selling up that whole thing. He's like, oh, maybe he's still lost in the swamp, maybe like a gator got him or some kind of bullshit. Now, I think it's bad creative that actually got him and killed him, and his lack of wrestling talent is really what killed him. But, I mean, hey, SummerSlam, it's 3 weeks away from this Sunday, so hopefully that's when the title goes back to the Fiend. But then the first real action we saw was the Intercontinental Championship match, AJ Styles versus Gran Metalik. I was excited for this, but it was kind of a letdown. I don't know, language barrier. It seemed a little sloppy. Like, guys were going for moves, and it was like, I got to do this move, and then it's like, nope, he's like holding him, and he's like, I got to rearrange you, and things looked a little sloppy. So I don't know if that was maybe just, like I said, the language barrier, or just an bad night at the office. But what did you think of this match?
I agree with you in the fact that I think it was a little bit of a letdown. Not a bad match. I feel like it could have benefited from maybe having a bit longer of a runtime, maybe let things develop a bit more. But, I mean, I believe this was their first time facing each other one-on-one.
Yeah.
It could just be, they don't have the right chemistry right now.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, I feel like AJ Styles, he could, put on a 4-star match with like a plastic bag or something. Like, he's so talented. Gran Metalik, this is definitely his, probably biggest, match in his main roster career, because he was, I believe, in the finals of the first Cruiserweight championship tournament, or the Cruiserweight Classic, so against TJP. So that was pretty cool. But then in this match, I was really hoping that this would be a good show for him. I thought, like I said, a little sloppy, but, the AJ Styles, of course, he retained here. Metalik was going off the ropes. He chop blocked him and then set up for the calf crusher. But Metalik, he did counter like the phenomenal forearm, and he did look good in this. It wasn't like, he looked bad or anything. But, of course, AJ Styles retained, like I said, the calf crusher. And then after the match, Lince Dorado was there. He's like, Metalik, like, it's okay, dude. Like, we're legit. We're still the Lucha House Party, all that other bullshit they do. And, of course, AJ Styles, having to still prove that he's heel. He was beating them down afterwards. And, of course, he's getting booed out of the building. So, what did you think? Did you think anything different? AJ Styles winning this, or, just like,
no,
okay.
You kind of expect AJ to keep rolling with the title right now until probably through SummerSlam. I did note to I did like the ending when Metalik came off the rope and then AJ kind of got him in the calf and then setting up the calf crusher. I like that sequence that they did.
Oh yeah,
Logical.
that was good. Yeah, because
Yeah.
that's when he countered the phenomenal forearm. I was like, okay, he's not going to win with that. He's probably going to, do the calf crusher. And as soon as he did that chop block, it was like, it's done. And then he also did hit Lince Dorado with the Styles Clash. So then moving on next, we get Shorty G. He's backstage with King Corbin. And then Corbin is like, he's like, hey, does it hurt to be on the sidelines? And then, he's like, hey, like, why you got to keep talking to me with this bullshit? All these short jokes. Now you're trying to be my friend. And he's like, hey, I'm just saying that you could be IC champ as well. And, hey, he's like, maybe if, you help me take care of this barefoot idiot, Matt Riddle. He's like, because he's the one getting, all the hype and all the opportunities when it should be you. Maybe you can help me. I have that King's ransom. And he's like, hey, man, I don't want any of it. And then he's like, hey, just think about it. So, maybe we saw hints here. Chad Gable going to turn heel. Is he going to side with Corbin, or is he like, Corbin, dude, you're bullshit. You were legit when you had the long hair and, you were the lone wolf. Now you're bullshit. But, we definitely saw some development with that later on in the show. And now we got Jeff Hardy. And, he comes out after the main event last week, the bar fight. And, he's pretty much saying that Sheamus, it was hard for him, because he had to fight him. He had to fight his demons. He said that his sobriety is a constant challenge, but beating Sheamus in that bar fight is a reminder that he will keep fighting. And then Hardy said that he's an alcoholic, but he is so much more than that. Which, see, I don't know why he says he's an alcoholic. Isn't he, like, clear for, like, he's not any?
Yeah, I think he's sober now.
Yeah, he's like a recovered alcoholic. He'd be like, I'm an alcoholic. Like, dude, are you drunk right now? Like, do you still drink? I'm like, so that, like, the wording on that, I don't like, but.
I thought it was funny how when he came out and started cutting the promo, he was like, I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a WWE superstar. Like, really, you have other titles in life that maybe might take precedent over being a superstar, but
No, that's bad. I mean, I'm surprised he didn't say that first. Like, I'm a WWE superstar. And,
yeah.
I mean, I guess I'm also at that. I mean, I guess my kids are legit. I guess they're okay. But yeah, and then he says that he's grateful for his family, his friends. They've gotten him to this point. So pretty much just cutting like a promo, like, hey, thanks for everybody. I'm the number one baby face. I'm legit. Blah blah blah. And then he said he is grateful to be alive and well here on SmackDown. And then King Corbin comes out because. Why don't, of course we want to see him 2 segments in a row. So he comes out and he said that if he has to listen to Jeff talk about his sobriety, much longer, his head will explode. I wish he would have said that he's going to drive him to drink. I would feel like that would have been more appropriate, but SmackDown doesn't know how to write a show. And then he said that Jeff's whining and crying about recovery. He's like, just shut up and deal with it. He has to deal with Riddle, who can't find his damn shoes. Again, they keep, they find one thing and they keep rolling with that. Matt Riddle, let's just talk about how he doesn't wear shoes. And then he's like, I have to wrestle Drew Gulak tonight. I'm losing my freaking mind. And then Jeff is like, hey, sorry to disappoint him. And then Corbin said that he would offer him the King's ransom to take out Riddle, but Hardy is too concerned with attending, AA meetings and collecting coins. And the Gulak jumped Corbin from behind as they went to commercial. So, I mean, I guess it's just set up the match, but, King Corbin, I don't know what you think of him, but I really don't like the character. No. But maybe that's just his heel.
Yeah, he's boring. When I see him on TV, I'm like, oh, okay, I guess he's on. It's a segment now.
That's what I mean. There's nothing, like, I don't even hate him. Like, ooh, I want to see him get his ass kicked. I mean, I do, but not, like, for the right reasons.
Yeah, it's just because I'm not a fan of him. The Lone Wolf I preferred it much better to this King Corbin gimmick.
Yeah, I agree. And then I wish I would go back to it, but I think Vince loves this gimmick, so I feel like it's here to stay. But then when we came back from commercial, they were already underway in this match, which showed how much they really cared about this thing, and that was King Corbin versus Drew Gulak. And this match wasn't too long. Gulak, he's legit. But the way that they present him, Daniel Bryan's teacher, it's like, okay, nobody's really going to think much of that. Like, how can he be Daniel Bryan's teacher? Daniel Bryan's already legit. Like, to me, that's just a bullshit gimmick, a bullshit thing. But at least he got his job back because he was released and they did bring him back. So, that's pretty cool. But at the end of this thing, Corbin hits the end of days, pretty much that's the end of it. And then Riddle jumps in, starts beating him down. And then Shorty G actually comes out, and he takes out Riddle with a rolling German suplex. And then Shorty G stood over Riddle, and then he looked at Corbin. They gave him a look, and Shorty G's like, hey, man, I just want that King's ransom. So here we see the development. Shorty G, what do you think? We're going to see maybe next week Shorty G versus Matt Riddle?
I could see maybe before going there, I could see them doing Shorty G against Gulak first. The Corbin Gulak match, it felt like one of those matches that existed for the sole purpose of getting to that end moment of Gable, Riddle, and
definitely.
But I mean, the Shorty G Corbin alliance could be interesting. I'm here for it. I mean, as I said, I'm not really a big Corbin fan, but I mean, putting Gable with him, I like him. He's a very good, interesting talent. So maybe that might help bring some interest to King Corbin, perhaps.
Oh, no, I agree, because I think Shorty G, he's on these shows and he's talented, but like half the time he's putting roles and things that don't really, amount to anything. Like he had the feud with Sheamus when Sheamus came back. He got his ass beat how many times, and then he was off TV. Now he's aligned with Corbin, and that also sounds like bullshit, but he's in a feud with Matt Riddle. Matt Riddle is getting a huge push. So if you're with Matt Riddle, you're going to, get some of that rub. So I think this is a good thing for Chad Gable, but we'll see where it goes. And speaking of getting pushes and seeing where things go, we get Big E versus The Miz. So this was supposed to be, the start of Big E's push. One thing on commentary I noticed twice, Corey Graves said, Big E, he will win a singles title one day, but today is not that day. And I'm like, yeah, no shit, because The Miz isn't a singles champion. This isn't a match for a singles title. Like, I don't know why they had to keep saying that. He was saying it to be like, Big E's not going to beat The Miz because obviously Corey Graves is heel. But I'm like, why would you keep saying this line? Like, yeah, no shit, he's not going to win a title. But what did you think of this match? I thought it was good. It had a lot of time. It told the story. Morrison was there. Then he got sent to the back because obviously the numbers game. But I thought the ending was a little, like the pinfall or like the submission rather. I think it was a pinfall.
This is no submission.
Oh, it was a submission. Yeah, it was. To me, the ending was just like the only thing I was like, really? Like I didn't really get it, but See, other than that, I thought it was good.
Yeah, it was a good match, and I liked the submission ending because I think that's kind of a sign of, okay, Big E might actually be getting it, trying to differentiate himself as a singles performer, because New Day, they don't really pull out any submission moves, so seeing him not only doing one but winning with a submission move might be a good sign of things to come for Big E in the singles run.
No, that is true, and that is a good point. Maybe it could be like a character change, not just like, I'm the New Day, but I'm just one guy. Like, hey, I'm going to switch it up. I'm going to do things more like I'm going to choke a guy out. Or, it was stretch muffler submission is how he got the win. So it's like you said, he's going to switch things up. Maybe not just hit the big ending all the time. He'll hit stuff. But, again, this was a good match. It had a lot of time. The Miz, what do you think of The Miz? Because you grew up watching a lot of that where The Miz, was new, came in. Are you a fan of his? Do you think he's kind of boring? Sometimes he gets hate. Sometimes, people love him.
I'm a fan. It's depending on what he does, on what he's doing, whether I like him or not. I was excited when they brought back Morrison, and I'm like, okay, cool, they're going to do this Miz and Morrison again. That's awesome. It's been underwhelming, I'd say, slightly. I like Miz a lot more when he's like doing his own singles run as a heel. As a face, I don't think he should be face ever.
Oh, ever. Yeah, no. I don't think, anything that, like you said, with him being face, that doesn't benefit him. It doesn't benefit the fans. But him with Morrison here, I think is a good role for him. And, hey, he's got a job to Big E, but, Big E needs to get the singles push.
Yeah. It makes sense. Miz and Morrison, they don't need the push right now. It's kind of all about getting Big E over. And, it's better to get Big E in the ring than, say, with just some jobber. Be like, oh, what's that going to do for him? Put him in with the Miz, who's established, and he and Morrison got some kind of, momentum kind of going for them lately. To have Big E go over, it's much better for Big E.
Oh, definitely. All right, so moving on, then Sheamus, he cuts a promo, and he's saying last week, he's like, I was in this bar fight with Jeff Hardy, and, this was pretty much his home turf. It was him and the alcohol and all his demons versus me. And, pretty much he's like, I was at a disadvantage, pretty much saying that, the Celtic Warrior, he's coming after everyone now because, he's pissed off, this and that. I mean, hopefully when he started cutting this promo, I was like, please don't tell me this feud is going to continue. But then when he kind of changed it and was like, I'm coming after everybody, I'm like, okay, that's fine. Because then maybe we can see him going against, literally anybody else besides Jeff Hardy. So I'm like, thank God. But, that was what it was. Sheamus, he deserves better. Maybe he'll go against AJ Styles. That could be legit. I mean, it's heel versus heel, but it could make for some legit matches. But then, speaking of legit matches, maybe not so much, but we got Lacey Evans versus Naomi. And this is all, of course, like I said, Lacey Evans, she's like the Big Show. She's heel for a week, then she's back to face, then heel, then face. Right now she's face because they need to feud her with Naomi, who is getting a push because people feel that she deserves more opportunities. I think she's, a talented wrestler, but I feel like there's a lot of other people on this roster who deserve opportunities as well. So, I agree with Booker T. You got to go out there and earn it instead of just the fans being like, oh, you deserve it. But, this match, it wasn't too bad. But, Naomi, she avoided the women's right at the end of this thing. She hits the rear view for the win, and I think it was the right winner because they are pushing Naomi because obviously you need to start pushing a baby face to eventually challenge, the heel champion Bayley. But what do you think of this thing? Naomi getting the push. I know you said that you're a fan of Naomi's, but do you think she should be the SmackDown Women's Champion again, or do you think that's maybe something, you don't really see it happening in the future?
I think eventually she should be SmackDown Women's Champion, but I just think Bayley with the championship is too hot right now. It would just be a dumb decision to take it off her now or any time in the near future because she's at the height of her career.
Yeah, and I think it's with like the thing that makes Bayley so legit is that she was babyface for so long. Then when she turned heel, that character really started to grow, and then she that's what really made it legit. But with Naomi, she's just the same thing for the past how many years, and then all of a sudden it's like let's just push her for no reason, and it's like how can the fans really get behind that? You need to keep having her on TV and getting wins for a couple months, and then maybe have her win the Women's Royal Rumble or something like that. That's what that's how you would make her feel legit. But I said this. Oh, go ahead.
Just that would be a perfect scenario. Have her win the Women's Rumble, then just have a Mania moment for her.
Yeah, exactly.
An ideal situation.
And then moving on, we get a pretty, legit segment, I thought. Mandy Rose, she was backstage, like her and Otis, they were talking. It's like, oh, it's legit. We're going to get all this food to eat. Otis is like, oh, yeah, steaks. Oh, yeah. And it was all, he was all ready to eat, make out with his peach. So it was legit. And then you see Mandy, she's getting ready. And then out of nowhere, Sonya Deville comes up, starts beating the shit out of her, gets the scissors, and was cutting her hair. And I was like, oh, shit, now it's getting crazy. So she's going to, she wasn't cutting it real short. So, okay, she'll probably just, get her hair, cut. It'll look legit, whatever. But, she was beating her down. And then she gets the razor, like the clippers. And it's like, zzz, and it's like, oh, shit, now she's going to shave her head. But then all the officials come. They're like, no, Mandy's beautiful. The Instagram post, you can't ruin it. Get out of here. Don't be bullshit. So then she didn't do that. But, she beat her down. And I like this because I think when Sonya and her split, and Sonya was like, you only get everything because people think you're hot, you can't wrestle, you're bullshit, you have no talent besides your looks, I'm the only legit one. I like that story because I feel like there's a little bit of truth to it, even though they're still best friends, outside of, the show. I feel like there's still a little bit of truth to that. So that's what I think makes this feud legit, and we haven't seen them for a couple weeks, so I thought it was good to see them here in this segment.
Yeah, it was a great segment. Again, there was good use of lipstick, which we just saw that the other week. Whatever was that?
Oh, with Lacey Evans when she was doing it, and then Naomi hit her, and
using that again. Because then when the camera panned, you saw Mandy just like it was like coming out of the nose and then going up the face. Like that looks really legit.
Yeah, doesn't it almost look like it almost makes you think of like blood?
Yeah.
Like you forget. Yeah, and I mean that's cool.
For a second, I'm watching like, did she actually like kind of knock her in the nose? Because it looked legit there. But no, it was a really good segment. Then with Otis and Tucker coming in, and then Miz and Morrison showing up for some reason.
Oh yeah, I mean that was legit. Like I I love all the jokes they make. Like even the other weeks when they make jokes at other people, the jokes were a little more tame. I thought they were better when they were like making fun of Naomi and stuff. But I mean, they're like, oh yeah, we gotta find what all the buzz is, and we gotta cut to the chase, and they're making all these like haircut jokes and this and that. I mean, Morrison is so legit, and Miz, like we said earlier, Miz is like when he's a heel, he's like a 10. When he's like a face, he's like a 2. It's like
yeah.
It's like day and night with him, and the two of them together is like so legit. Like, when a certain group of people all were working the same shift at Arby's, it was real legit. That's what this is with Miz and Morrison. Them together is so legit. And speaking of legit, we're finally here at the main event. Bayley, Nikki Cross, SmackDown Women's Championship. Was Nikki Cross going to win? No. But this match was still pretty good. Nikki Cross has that energy. I think her and Bayley have chemistry. They wrestled a bunch of times. And, of course, Sasha was there. Of course, Alexa Bliss was there. They really didn't get involved too much. It was more just Alexa Bliss kind of knocked Sasha off the apron, this and that. It wasn't too much involvement. But what did you think of this match?
Oh, good match. Nikki and Bayley have such great chemistry together. As they've proven over this past month or so now. And I really hope that Nikki doesn't become an afterthought when she's done with Bayley, because I think, when you hear Vince say about that proverbial brass ring, I think that's what Nikki's done over this feud. I think she's grabbed it, and I hope that she sticks around in the main event scene, whether it's on SmackDown or if maybe she honestly might be best for her to move to Raw, maybe at some point in the future.
I mean,
done with Bayley.
I think honestly they shouldn't have done this match. I think you could have did something else, because I think Nikki Cross is the next woman in line to be the SmackDown Women's Champion. I think, now I'm not saying Bayley's going to drop it at the next pay-per-view or, the one after SummerSlam, but I think she's got to be the next in line. Like you said, she's there. She's like, she might not have grabbed that brass ring, but she's close. She's like climbing like the Money in the Bank ladder. She's like, it's like, just grab it, just unhook it. Like, stop being bullshit. Like, that's where she's at right now. And I think she'll do it. But like we said, the Bayley, all this, her character, her run, everything they're doing, they pretty much said, in kind of like a commercial that they retired by beating the shit out of Kairi Sane. So like they're really trying to get over the golden role models, Bayley and Sasha. So they're not going to derail that by taking the title off her. But I think Nikki Cross is next in line. I would say even more so than Naomi. But this match was good. Bayley hit, her finisher, the Rose Plant, 1, 2, 3. So she wins. But the main story, maybe not for this feud, but I think for getting a little bit more excitement for what should be the main program on SmackDown, the Universal Championship. After the match, Alexa Bliss was like, so people pay $400 to talk to me in videos. And Nikki Cross is like, I don't care about that bullshit. I lost the match. Like, why do you, make cameo videos for $400? Like, you're so bullshit. And she leaves. And then Alexa Bliss is like, well, I like money. Like, come on, Nikki, don't be, what the hell? And then all the lights go off, and it's like, yeah, Alexa, why don't you use some of that money to pay the electric bills? Well, actually, it wasn't the electric bills. It was the Fiend. He shows up, and he's like, so I'm not paying you $400. And he's like, and he does the mandible claw. So that was legit. He's pretty much, what did he say? He was like, the Fiend is coming. He's going to take everybody out. And to me, the most shocking thing to do, I mean, he could have took out Sheamus. He could have took out The Miz. He could have took out Nakamura. He could have took out any of these guys.
Oh, yeah.
And speaking of them, we did see a little thing, which I forgot to mention because to me, it didn't make any sense. We saw Lince Dorado and Gran Metalik. They were kind of going back and forth with, Shinsuke Nakamura and Cesaro. And it's like, dude, you just lost I agree with Cesaro. Like, dude, you just lost an IC match. Why do you think you can challenge us for the SmackDown Tag Team titles? Like, dude. You're the Lucha House Party. Like, go beat up a pinata, go be bullshit somewhere else. So, but no, the Fiend, he didn't attack none of them. By attacking a woman, I feel it makes it more legit. Like, he will literally go after anybody.
Oh, yeah. It adds to the character. And I fully expected, after Extreme Rules, for Alexa Bliss to just kind of be like, they threw her in there. It makes sense for that swamp fight, but I expect her not to be involved. So the fact that they're kind of putting her back in there, I like that a lot.
Oh, yeah, because they are playing off the thing, because when they did that mixed match challenge, the men and the women tag teams, that was the team Alexa Bliss and Braun Strowman. So they're playing off that, like you said, the Extreme Rules. And then now he attacks her. So maybe that will add more to Braun Strowman. He'll be like, oh, don't be bullshit, And then he goes after him again. So we'll see what they do. But, I'm excited, and like you said, it all makes sense when you do things that kind of make sense story wise and aren't just random. It makes the story and the feud that much better. So
Oh yeah.
that was SmackDown, guys. Thank you so much for watching, Ryan. Thank you so much for being here, and it was a pleasure. Juan, we're always thinking of you. He is the rope break champion because, like we said at Extreme Rules, he got most of them right because he's bullshit and read spoilers. No, just kidding. There was no spoilers out. He's legit. He has the greatest wrestling mind in the business, even though I like to think it's me sometimes. So, speaking of, us and how legit we are, follow us on all of our social media. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram, The Original Rope Break, Twitter, The OG Rope Break, and here on YouTube, The Original Rope Break, for the best podcast in the YouTube wrestling community. And guys, stay tuned, for all the content we're going to have. We might have something this weekend, but, if not, definitely stay tuned. We're going to have Monday Night Raw and everything else coming at the start of this next week. So, Ryan, you and I have one thing left to say, and that is... duh.